Subscribe to Bisbo and press the bell icon. See boring news turn into enjoyable stories. Even as other Kashmiri Pandits left the valley in droves in the 1990s, one brave man, Makan Lal Bhindru, refused to.
People love me here. Why should I leave?
30 years later, the now 68-year-old chemist was dispensing medicines at his pharmacy in Srinagar one early October day last year, when people pretending to be customers shot him dead, making him the first Kashmiri Pandit in 18 years to be killed by terrorists. Since then, terrorists have been on a killing spree in the valley, leaving 22 dead from different walks of life. Dalit school teacher Rajni Bala was shot in Kulgam, Kashmir in May this year, just as she entered her school one morning. Earlier the same month, terrorists shot dead Jammu and Kashmir Police Constable Adham Thokar when he came home to Pulwama on leave. He was one of 9 such Kashmiri Muslim police officers who were targeted by terrorists in the past 1 year. These 22 targeted killings have shattered the myth that all is well in Kashmir post the scrapping of Article 370 on August 5, 2019. It was widely believed that after the repeal, peace would return to the disturbed region and create an environment to enable the return of Kashmiri Pandits back to the valley to stay happily ever after.
ये नया कश्मीर है.
And the dream seemed to be coming true also, because 41 lakh Indians who had long been living in Jammu and Kashmir now got a domicile certificate. Panchayat elections were held in December 2020 and a delimitation exercise was carried out in preparations of assembly elections. An online portal was launched to enable Kashmiris who had fled in the 1990s exodus to reclaim their homes they had left behind. Farooq Abdullah, by a 1997 act, had tried to put a stop on Kashmiri Muslims from buying Hindu properties below market prices. Still, about 7,800 of the 11,500 homes left behind were estimated to have been sold by 2014, possibly as distress sales, while the rest remained dilapidated in a state of neglect. Within days, the online portal received 5,600 complaints against properties which they claimed were now illegally occupied. To test the veracity of the claims, officials conducted physical inspections across the state on a war footing. The entire verification process is transparent. However, of the 2,200 complaints that were processed, 95% were found to be fake, trying to lay claims on land sold legally by their grandparents. But some were deemed genuine, and authorities served eviction orders on 20 Kashmiri Muslim families and forcibly evicted around 14 of them after they failed to produce any legal documents. The news of verification and evictions, mixed with rumors and disinformation, spread fast, creating a fear psychosis among Kashmiri Muslims.
Am I next?
This emotion was taken advantage of by the resistance front, an alleged offshoot of the terrorist group Lashkar, who tried to gain the sympathy of local Kashmiri Muslims by targeting Kashmiri Pandits and migrants. Call it a coincidence or fate, but the two events seem to be connected because the site was launched on September 7th. By September 26th, thousands of complaints were received and the targeted killing started on October 6th, the first being that of the chemist Makan Lal Bhindru. Now a fear psychosis emerged among Hindus, setting the stage for another exodus from across the Kashmir Valley. In the first exodus of the 90s, an estimated 2 lakh Kashmiri Pandits had left, of which 37,000 odd families went to Jammu and 21,000 to Delhi and other states. Both the UPA and Modi governments lured thousands of Kashmiri Pandit families back to the valley, offering them several benefits. 6,000 government jobs, benefits worth 80,068 crore. But now, these very same families fear their and their families' safety and want to leave the Kashmir Valley once again. But the government cannot permit that, as it will be considered a serious loss of face.
Hindus living in Kashmir want to leave, but the government is not allowing them to. If Pandits move out, then it is like surrendering to the terrorists.
Post the killing of school teacher Rajni Bala, Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha hurriedly posted 177 teachers to safe zones in Srinagar. However, bureaucratic hurdles are coming in the way of their safety, because when Kashmiri Pandits were given benefits for moving back into the valley, it was on the condition that there would be no transfer outside Kashmir. Rahul Bhatt, a 35-year-old Kashmiri Pandit was one of the persons employed in a government job in Kashmir as part of this scheme, where he was sadly killed inside the Tehsildar's office where he worked in Jammu and Kashmir's Budgam district on May 12, 2022. Unlike in the past, Bhatt was shot dead by terrorists at his workplace, thus putting a big question mark on Jammu and Kashmir's security apparatus. Rahul's killing triggered protests by Kashmiri Pandits all over the valley, with the gathering at Lal Chowk, Srinagar shouting,
Aakhir kab tak? Till when?
His young widow was combative.
PM Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah are making Kashmiri Pandits scapegoats. I challenge them to come to Kashmir and roam around without security.
Former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Umar Abdullah put the situation in perspective. Tourism is not normalcy. Normalcy is the absence of fear, the absence of terror, the inability of militants to strike at will. Kashmir is far from normal today, but life is more precious than any security provided by government jobs.
So, 300 Pandits recruited under the Prime Minister's package have given up their jobs and left Kashmir for Jammu.
82 of the 96 Kashmiri Pandit families living in government camps and all 250 staying in rented accommodations also left Kashmir. However, the government categorically denied this in the Rajya Sabha. No Kashmiri Pandit has left the valley in 2022 and only one has been killed. The killing of Rahul Bhatt also tore apart the repeated assertions by Kashmiri Muslims. Kashmir is a safe place for the Pandits. The hit movie Kashmir Files shows how they mounted the same platitudes even during the 1990s exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. Since the repeal of Article 370, other than Hindu Pandits, even the 1 million, 10 lakh strong Hindu migrant population have been targeted. Bank manager Vijay Kumar from Hanumangarh, Rajasthan, working in Kulgam, was shot dead in June inside the bank premises. Supinder Kaur, principal of a government school in Srinagar, was killed along with a colleague Deepak Chand Mehra for this crime.
Students, you must all attend India's Independence Day function at school tomorrow.
Muslim woman TV artist Amrina Bhatt, Krishna Dhaba owner's son Akash Mehra, and a wine shop worker were all brutally killed. Times of India on June 3rd reported that militants are trying to stop the demographic change being attempted by the government. These kinds of open threats are not giving the minorities in the Kashmir Valley any sense of security. So in a desperate measure, Kashmiri Pandit children at Baramulla were overnight told not to attend schools and go for online schooling. In frustration, the Kashmiri Pandit Sangharsh Samiti sought the intervention of the Jammu and Kashmir High Court. All religious minorities living in Kashmir should be relocated to a safe place outside the valley. The court is coming into the picture because the bridge between political parties and informal channels in Kashmir and the centre have been broken. Local leaders like Farooq Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti seem to have become irrelevant. Jamia Masjid, the seat of Kashmir's most influential Hurriyat leader, Mirwais Umar Farooq, has remained shut since the repeal of Article 370. Kashmir's press club has been shut down, and with journalists detained and denied accreditation cards, it has stifled the flow of information. Lieutenant Governor Sinha's decision to bring in non-Kashmiri bureaucrats from AGMUT cadre, Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, Mizoram and the Union Territories to manage the sensitive state seems strange, while the delimitation exercise in Jammu and Kashmir has further eroded trust after 6 new assembly seats were allotted to Jammu region and only 1 to Kashmir. The government is in a very difficult position. While it is impossible for them to protect everybody, backtracking will only make the militants seem more powerful. When matters reach this state, we have all the sympathies for Kashmiri Hindus who need to be protected at all costs. Bisbo's limerick. Kashmiri Pandits are being targeted once again, making them want to leave the place they've been staying. Caught in a bind between home and sound mind, there has to be a way to stop all this spraying. You will also find these sources listed in our video description section.